Hello everyone, Patrick Fay here. In the lead up to the World Cup, I did a couple of podcast videos with some predictions and a bit of a preview, and now we're 1 week into the tournament and I've decided to do things a little bit differently and start doing things in video form. So after 1 week, let's have a look at how things are going. So at this point we've seen every team play at least once, some of them twice, and for most of that time there were no great surprises, I think, in results. That wasn't until Wednesday when we saw Uruguay getting the win over Fiji, which was the only game I got wrong in tipping. So take a look back now at the games we've had so far and take a look forward to the next week of games. Just explain my outfit here. So I've got the Wallabies beanie on and the island top, a couple of bits of supporters gear that I have in my possession, and obviously with both of those countries getting the win in their opening game, I thought it was a good idea to show some support for them. So, going back to the opening night, we had Japan versus Russia last Friday night, and the hosts Japan walking away with a 30-10 win in that one. Yeah, look, that was a really exciting way to start the tournament. I thought it was just a fantastic atmosphere. You know, sort of giving me goosebumps even, and I can only, and that was sitting at home watching it on the TV in Tasmania. So I got that feeling of how big of an occasion it was, so I can only imagine what it must have been like actually being there. That game was fast and furious, is one way I would describe it. And Russia, one of the teams that I don't think much was expected of them in this tournament, but it was just really good to see the passion that they played with and how excited they were to score that first try in the game. And you could see that they went out there and gave it everything and hung in there for a while, but I think Japan's experience showed in the second half, and yeah, the Japanese winger Kotari Matsushima with a hat-trick in that game, so pretty good start to the tournament for him. He'd be one I'll be keeping an eye on throughout the tournament, and the ideal start really for Japan to get the win and the bonus point in front of their home crowd. Then we obviously had the Super Saturday, so three big games there, starting out with Australia versus Fiji in Pool D. So that was an interesting one. I think that Fiji started very strongly and had the Wallabies troubled, I think, certainly in that first half, and the Wallabies actually being behind at half time, and it wasn't until about the 60-minute mark that the Wallabies actually got in the lead. So eventually things worked out well for them, and scoring enough tries for the bonus point, which was encouraging. So after a nervous start, I think that was a pretty good result for the Wallabies, and we saw some pretty entertaining rugby from the Fijians as well. Then we had the first game in Pool C, which is the pool of death, and for me this was, for me going into it, this was the one game that it was not, it did not seem obvious who was actually going to win it. And I guess even though it's only the first game for both these teams, it just felt like there was so much at stake in this one, because you've got the three teams, you've got England, France and Argentina, and only two of them are going to be able to go through to the quarterfinals. So that had the feeling that whoever won this one whoever won this one is going to be one of the teams that makes it through. So for a first pool game, it certainly had that feeling of being much more high stakes, and it certainly didn't disappoint. It really could have gone either way, and it was probably the most exciting game on that first weekend, really coming right down to it. France eventually winning by 2 points, and you've got to feel for Argentina. You could sense that it almost felt a bit like that could have been their World Cup gone just from that one loss, and they were so close as well. Obviously having that shot at a penalty right near the end, that could have got them the win. So you have to feel sorry for the guy that took that, and for Argentina. So certainly a big hit to their campaign, but they're certainly not out of it yet. They've still got 3 games to play, and there's a long way to go, so we can't be writing them off just yet. And then the last game there was the big clash between the 2 heavyweights in Pool B, New Zealand and South Africa. Another one that was probably going to be one of the closer games. No real surprise there that the All Blacks came away with the win. South Africa certainly gave a good account of themselves. In the end, I think that the All Blacks were just a little bit too good for them. So probably expected that South Africa might lose that one, but I'm sure they would have liked to have beaten the All Blacks, but there's still a very good opportunity for them to go on and win their 3 remaining games. That was always going to be the toughest one, and I think that with getting that win, the All Blacks were able to show that they are going to be the team to beat again, and getting that win over South Africa makes you think that they will go on and finish on top of their pool and win their next 3 games. Moved on to Sunday's games, and the second game in Pool B was Italy against Namibia. So no big surprises there. Italy winning that one 47-22. So a pretty good start there for Italy. Again, this was probably always a game that they were going to win. The tougher games for Italy are obviously going to be coming up when they play New Zealand and South Africa, but a good sign for them here. Traditionally they haven't scored a lot of points, and one thing that we've seen, even though they've played some lower ranked opposition in their first couple of games, they've really done a good job of putting points on the board, which is certainly a good sign for them. And then also on Sunday we had the second clash in Pool A between Scotland and Ireland. Now again, Ireland winning this one 27-3. Now I don't think it was a big surprise that Ireland won this game. I did expect to see a little bit more from Scotland. I think they would be disappointed to have gone down by that much, but certainly a statement of intent from Ireland that I thought they were pretty dominant in that game. That really showing that they're going to be the team to beat in Pool A. And I guess with Scotland not having a great start and also being hit by a couple of injuries, opens up that question: will they actually get through? You've obviously got Japan, who have made a good start, and Samoa getting a win as well. So Scotland need to yeah, Scotland are going to have to lift their game if they're going to be one of the teams to go through there. I think with Japan and Samoa are really going to be looking to keep a bit of that momentum. So interesting to see what happens there. Last game on the Sunday night in Pool C, England in their first game getting a pretty comfortable win, 35-3 over Tonga. So no real surprise there. It is England probably you'd think are going to be one of the teams that will go through, even though it's such a tough pool. But I think the bigger tests will come further down the track for them. Then we go to Monday and we had the first look at some of our opponents in Pool D. We had Wales taking on Georgia and again, no huge surprise to see Wales going away, winning that one 43-14 against Georgia. So I thought that was a pretty good start for Wales. I think they, as we expect, they are going to be the strongest competition for the Wallabies in there. But Georgia, a very exciting team to watch play as well. Just the size and strength of some of those forwards in there. Look, they can certainly bring a lot of physicality to the game, the Georgian team. Probably just putting in a strong performance over 80 minutes is what's let them down. But yeah, really enjoyed watching Georgia play, even though they were pretty well beaten in that one. And then on Tuesday, Russia, the first team to have to back up and play a second game. So pretty short turnaround for them. So you'd think that they would have still been recovering from their game against Japan on the first night, and Samoa Samoa, this was their first game, so they were fresh and certainly the favourites to win that one. This was another interesting game to watch. Not quite sure about exciting, but it was just good to see that a side like Russia were able to be so competitive against Samoa. I think it would have been expected that they would have won that game a lot easier. But yeah, the first half of that one was a pretty scrappy game. So Russia able to get 2 penalties and were actually in the lead 6-5, which I don't think anyone expected them to stay in front for very long. And there was actually seemed like there might be an opportunity for an upset there with Samoa having 2 players yellow carded just before the halftime break. Unfortunately for Russia, they were not able to capitalise when they had that 2-man advantage, and I think that's probably just experience and a bit of confidence that they really needed to be able to make the most of that and put some points on the board, which they were not able to do. So even though they held on to the lead until half time, they sort of missed their chance, and I think that's where these tier 2 countries can be quite competitive, but they just seem to be lacking that bit of extra push to be able to take advantage in a situation like that. And then we saw a much improved Samoa in the second half, and they scored 3 tries in the space of about 10 minutes, and also Russia had a player yellow carded, and Samoa did take advantage of having that overlap, and in the end quite a comfortable win, 34-9 for them. So again, not surprising to see Samoa get the win, but I really enjoyed seeing Russia play. I think that they've clearly got some talented players, and they gave a really good account of themselves. I don't think rugby is very big in Russia, but they certainly still have some fans there cheering quite passionately for them, and even getting a result like that, just the way they were up and about after the game, yeah, I think that's really good to see. So I thought that there was some chance we might have seen an upset there that didn't materialise, but then on Wednesday, this was the big one. It was right when I was thinking that there's not going to be any real surprises in this first week of matches, and that I was headed for a perfect round in tipping. And then we had Uruguay with their first game in Pool D taking on Fiji, who again with a pretty short turnaround after their game against the Wallabies, and a lot of changes to that side. I think they would have viewed this as an opportunity to be able to rest some players and be able to get a win, but Uruguay had some other ideas, didn't they? Yeah, it was really surprising to see, actually, because I thought that Fiji really pushed the Wallabies and as I said, actually led in that game for at least the first 60 minutes. But the big difference between this game and Russia taking on Samoa was that Uruguay were able to take their chances when they got them. So yeah, Fiji made quite a lot of mistakes, and unfortunately they paid for those. Uruguay scored 3 tries that all came on the back of mistakes from Fiji. And yeah, I guess another key factor in this one, Fiji actually outscoring them 5 tries to 3. The big difference there, only 1 conversion for Fiji, whereas Uruguay converted all 3 tries and 3 penalties as well. So despite scoring less tries, that they were able to come away with the win. Yeah, so we certainly had what has been the biggest win in the history of the Uruguay rugby team there. They'd never beaten Fiji before, and beaten, I think, yeah, pretty significantly in all their previous clashes. It's also the first time they'd won a World Cup game since 2003. You've got to go back to where they beat Georgia, who I don't think were the team that they are now back then. So yeah, their history at the World Cup hadn't been so great. So only 4 years ago, they not only didn't win a game, but scored the least amount of points and conceded the most in their pool. And one of the teams to beat them quite significantly there was Fiji. So yeah, a lot of talk about how far they've come in the last 4 years. And I think a big part of that has been that in 2015 their side was mostly amateur, whereas now they're almost entirely professionals. A lot of them playing in the new professional league, Major League Rugby in America, which has definitely been a good thing for them. So yeah, probably more of their players playing at a higher standard seems to be working well for them. So a great start for Uruguay, and yeah, definitely going to be interesting to see how they go from here. Disappointing for Fiji, but on the plus side for them, they did get enough tries and were within 7 points, so 2 bonus points for them. So a pretty tough road for them to get through from here, but certainly not impossible. And then, so the 2 final games of this first week played yesterday. In Group B, we had Italy playing Canada, and quite a comfortable win there for Italy, 48-7. No great surprise to see them win that one. I thought it might have been a little bit closer than that. Probably a bit of a disappointing result for Canada, and they certainly showed a bit of promise in attack, and definitely deserved to get that try towards the end of the game. That they didn't deserve to get beaten to 0, but not a great start for them. But another good win for Italy. So interesting to see how they can follow up. They've had 2 wins against their easier opponents in their group, and it obviously gets a lot tougher for them from here. And then the last game last night, we had the United States making their debut at this tournament against England, and another pretty one-sided scoreline there. England winning that one 45-7. Again, no big surprise with England winning that game. Thought it could have been a little bit closer. Again, some decent moments in there for the US, and great to see them finally get on the board there after 80 minutes. And it's one of the things I really like to see, even when they're about to be well beaten, just how much it meant to them to score a try. There's one of those really cool things that we get to see in the World Cup for some of the minnow nations, just how big of a deal it is for them to even score a try against a team like England. A good start for England. They've beaten the two lower ranked opponents in their pool, so haven't really been tested just yet, but certainly some promising signs. They've only conceded the one try in those two games, and that took until 80 minutes, so pretty good signs for them. So we'll just take a look at where that leaves us after the first week of games. In Pool A, we've got Samoa, Ireland and Japan all with 5 points, and then Scotland and Russia, no points for them yet. In Pool B, we've got Italy on top of the table there on 10 points. Obviously, they're the only side that's had 2 games, so a bit of an advantage there for them. New Zealand in second with 4 points, and no points for South Africa, Namibia or Canada. So as I said, a good start for Italy. Whether they get many more points from here is the question, but they've certainly done what they needed to do in their first 2 games. Again, Pool C, England on top with 10 points, the only team to have played 2 games, so that makes sense. France in second with 4, 1 point for Argentina, so another bit of a silver lining from their game against France was getting the bonus point, which could come in handy down the track. No points for Tonga or the USA. And then in Pool D, we've got Wales and Australia on top with 5 points each. That's going to change with the 2 teams playing each other on Sunday. So whoever wins that one likely to go on top there. Uruguay in third place with 4 points. Fiji with 2, courtesy of their bonus points against Uruguay, and Georgia in 5th, no points for them yet. So let's take a look at what we've got coming up over the second week of games. Now there's no games tonight, so we've got a day off, but then straight back into it on Saturday. We've got 3 games. So 2:45 we've got Argentina versus Tonga. So that's another big game for Argentina. I think after the disappointment of such a narrow loss in their first game, here's a good chance for them to get back out there and make up for that with a win. And I think they will get the win there. Certainly be the favourites in Tonga. So not a good one for them to lose last week, but as I said, they're not out of it yet. We're just going to have to see how this could be really interesting, this pool, to see what happens from here. And yeah, two great games in that pool coming up. So after Argentina and Tonga, we've got Japan versus Ireland. Now Japan obviously getting the win over Russia, but here's a chance for them to show that they can really be competitive against the Tier 1 nations. And obviously Ireland are the favourites in this pool, and I think will beat Japan. But if Japan go out there and are beaten quite easily, then that's not going to be a good sign for them. If they can go out there and really show that they can compete with a team like Ireland, then that's going to give them the confidence when they play. When they go on to play Scotland and Samoa, they might be able to knock one of them off and still have a chance of going through to the quarterfinals. So a pretty tough one there for Japan, and I think we'll see Ireland get the win. But yeah, really looking forward to seeing how Japan go there. Obviously, we know from the last World Cup they did really well getting the win against South Africa, so we know that it is possible for them to be able to beat those Tier 1 nations, and if it's ever going to happen, this is their time to do it when they're playing a World Cup on their home soil. And the third game on Saturday, we've got South Africa playing against their African neighbours, Namibia. I think should be a pretty easy win for South Africa there. Obviously, being the two African countries in there, Namibia will want to do well against their neighbours, but I can't say that they've got much chance there. But I'd expect them to give a good account of themselves. But this is after the disappointment of losing to New Zealand in the first game. Here's a good chance for South Africa to get their World Cup going. And Sunday we've got two matches in Pool D starting at 3:15, Georgia versus Uruguay. Now I think we would have said that Georgia were going to win this one, but after the performance that Uruguay have put in beating Fiji, this could be a really interesting one. Uruguay will want to show that that was no fluke, that they were able to beat Fiji, but also Georgia, they've got to be looking at this as one of their best chances to get a win after being pretty comfortably beaten by Wales. So very interesting to see what happens there. Despite the excitement of getting that win against Fiji, whether Uruguay can go out again so soon and produce another performance like that could just be a little bit too much to ask. So despite that upset win, I would still go with Georgia in that one. And then the big one, Australia versus Wales at 5:45 at the Tokyo Stadium. This is really going to be the game that defines who finishes on top of Pool D, I think. A loss here is probably not going to be the end of the world if the Wallabies are beaten in this one. This is their chance to show that they can really be a force at this World Cup. Obviously Wales, with their world ranking and how they've performed recently, a lot of people would probably have them as favourites. Their history in the World Cup certainly not on their side, and I don't think they've got a particularly good record against Australia either. So look, this one is really there for the Wallabies to win, and if they're going to do well in this tournament and going to go on to be a threat later on, this is a game that they have really got to win, and I think they can do that. I think they can do it, and if we can see the Wallabies get the win against Wales, then they should go on to finish on top of their pool and really show that they can be one of the top teams. But this is certainly the toughest game in the pool stage for the Wallabies, and Wales I think will be very keen to show that they're not chokers when it comes to the World Cup. And they should be feeling pretty confident as well. I think they made quite a good start against Georgia, whereas the Wallabies are a little bit shaky against Fiji, but particularly in that second half, I think the Wallabies showed what they're capable of, and that's going to be what they need to do if they're going to beat Wales. So that'll be the match of the round in this second week. Then moving to Monday, we've got Scotland versus Samoa. Another big one, a shot at redemption for Scotland after a disappointing result against Ireland. They need to get their campaign going, but as I said, a couple of injuries there and a pretty good start for Samoa as well. So certainly not without a chance, and you just think if Samoa could knock Scotland off here, that would be a pretty big deal, because that's going to make it really hard for Scotland from there, and could go a long way towards Samoa actually being able to qualify. Then we go to Wednesday. We've got France taking on the USA at 5:45 p.m. Again, a good start for France, and I think they will be favourites to get another win there. And following that, New Zealand versus Canada at 8:15 p.m. I'm sorry, I don't think there's much hope for Canada there. It's only probably going to get tougher for them from here, and probably a chance for the All Blacks to rest a few people. But yeah, you'd say even if it's an under-strength team, should be able to get the job done pretty comfortably for the All Blacks. Then on Thursday, it is Georgia and Fiji. So Georgia will have played a second time by then, but this is going to be Fiji's first game since their loss to Uruguay. So it's going to be do or die for them. They're going to need to win that one and get a bonus point as well, you'd think, if they're going to stay in there. Without knowing what's going to happen when Georgia play Uruguay, if they could get the win there, that might give them a bit of extra confidence, but I'd be tipping with their World Cup on the line that we might see Fiji be able to bounce back there and get the win. The last one we have on the Thursday night is another one in Pool A, Ireland versus Russia at 8:15 p.m. We've seen plenty of heart from the Russians so far, but that's going to be a tough ask for them if they were going to knock off Ireland. So certainly see a bit of fight from the Russians, but should be a pretty comfortable win for Ireland there, you'd think. So after this second round, I think we're going to have, after this second week, we'll have a much clearer idea of how things are going to be looking at the end of the pool stage. So pretty big week coming up, and really looking forward to it.